fiscal year 21-22 audit. And I believe on Zoom is Mr. Austin Eubanks, and he will present the report. And there were no findings for the audit. So Mr. Eubanks, are you on?
He just joined.
Mr. Eubanks? Mr. Eubanks, are you live yet? He should be. He's showing his own there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, Mr. Eubanks, we can hear you well. The floor is yours.
All right, good. I will be sharing my screen. Can you allow me to share my screen? It's disabled at the moment.
Tammy, can you turn his audio up a little bit?
Austin, you can try it now, see if that's working.
Yes, sir, it is. Can y'all see that pretty well?
Not yet. And this is our first meeting fully free of our new system, so
Working out the kinks.
yeah. Austin, did you get a notice for the screen share?
Yes, sir. It should be sharing.
Yep, there it is. Okay, we got it.
All right, sounds good. Can you hear me okay?
You're just a little bit soft. Can you get a little closer?
Yes, sir. All right, so I'll go ahead and start. My name is Austin Eubanks. I'm the audit manager of Thompson Price Scott Adams, our Wilmington office. We did have the pleasure of auditing the town of Edenton for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022. So just going through some general required communications. Our responsibilities fell under the generally accepted auditing standards, government auditing standards, OMB uniform guidance, and the state single audit implementation act. We was able to design the audit and provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material error and in compliance with government regulations. We were also able to perform all planned procedures and had complete access to both management and required information. And there was no internal controls this year. So the segregation of duties that you had in the prior years is now gone.
I'm not understanding the word he's saying.
Austin, can you turn your mic volume up a little bit? I'm sorry.
That's no problem. Let me see if I can. Don't know if I'm able to.
Okay, you can continue, Austin.
Okay, can you hear me a little better now?
Yeah,
That's better.
Much,
Yes.
much better.
Okay. I don't want to be yelling at you. Also, so going on with the additional required communications, there was a GASB 87 adaptation this year, and that involved the government leases. And that did have some effect this year for Edenton. Management, judgment, and accounting estimates were deemed to be reasonable. Significant audit adjustments or unrecorded differences, we did not have any. We did not have any disagreements with management. We did not have outside consultation with other accountants, and there was no prior retention issue. We did not have any significant difficulties during the audit or find any irregularities or illegal acts. So getting into the actual numbers of the general fund, for the general fund, the cash and cash equivalents was $2,753,000. The restricted cash is $76,141, and this is POW bill funds. Total revenues and other financing sources, $6,031,000. Total expenditures and other financing sources was $6.3 million, giving you a net change for a negative $283,000. One of the metrics we use, the LGC likes to use, is the minimum undesignated fund balance. For a town the size of Edenton, you should have 34% of a minimum undesignated fund balance that covers your expenditures. As of 6/30/2022, your fund balance was actually right at 45%, so you are meeting that requirement. Tax collection rate overall was 98.74%. So this is a general fund operating summary for the past 4 years. As you see, of course, this year do show that loss. However, the past 3 years, you did have operating income and a positive. So your top 3 revenues for the general fund, ad valorem taxes, you made up 39% of the total revenues, and that you collected $2,174,000. Your unrestricted intergovernmental, which the majority of this was your sales and use tax, $1.5 million, that was 27%. Sales and services, $1,041,000, made up 19%, and all of the revenue combined was $868,000. General fund expenditures, your public safety came in the top at 43%, and that you spent $2,647,000.
Correct.
The environmental protection at 16%, $1,012,000. Transportation and utilities, you spent $1,131,000, 18%. All of the revenue combined was right at $1.4 million. So get into your analysis of fund balance. As you can tell from prior year, it did dip down from 3.8 million to 3.5 million, and that is because of that operating loss this year. But you do have total fund balance of $3,557,000. $2.7 million of this is available to be spent at your discretion. However, $807,101 is committed, restricted, or assigned. What makes this up is state stabilization, which is mainly your AR on hand. AR at the end of the year was $727,000, and there was power bill funds of $65,000. So getting to the fund balance available as a percentage of general fund expenditures, again, is that metric that the LGC has a minimum of 34%, which represents around 4 months worth of expenditures. As you see, you did dip down slightly this year. At the peak for 2021, you had 6 months worth of coverage. However, this year it dipped down. You have 5.5 months worth of coverage. So again, you are meeting that threshold. Property tax collection rate slightly dipped this year, but overall, you've been good for the past 4 years. This is really high, in my opinion, as a property tax collection rate. Getting into your other major funds, you have the ARPA funds. Restricted cash as of 6/30/2022 was $610,798. Total revenues was $116,568, and your revenues have to match the expenditures of these type of grants. So your expenditures were $116,568. Harbor Town Ferry Fund project. Again, these type of projects, revenues do match the expenditures. You had $384,623, giving you a net change of 0. restricted cash of $115,376. All your non-major funds, cash and cash equivalents was $870,073. Total revenues right at $1.3 million. The expenditures of $844,000, giving you a net change of $447,000. Fund balance went from $215,000 up to right at $662,661. So moving on to the electric fund. Cash equivalents is unrestricted, $2,064,588. Restricted cash of $269,714. Your operating revenues and non-operating revenues was $12,507,000. Operating expenditures and non-operating expenses was $12,560,000, giving you a net change of a negative $52,943. Ending fund balance was $4.7 million. Water and sewer fund. Unrestricted cash, $589,000. Restricted cash, $13,368. Your operating and non-operating revenues, $3,179,000. Operating expenditures, $2.6 million, giving you a net change of a positive $533,705. Boosting your fund balance at the ending, $7.8 million. Airport fund, cash of $100 on hand at the end of the year. Operating revenues, non-operating was $615,000. Operating expenditures of $507,000, giving you a positive $107,580 worth of operating income, bringing your fund balance to $3,283,000. Getting into some additional communications. There was some performance indicator issued this year that I had to let you know about. Normally, the LGC would always send out a letter with these, but they have given it upon the auditors to express these. And you have up to 60 days from the time of this meeting to present them with a letter stating that you agree with these and what you plan to do to mitigate these going forward. So the first one was that operating for the general fund, that negative general fund balance for this fiscal year. This is basically saying you should have operational revenues to cover your operational losses. Continuation of this practice could result in deterioration of the unit's fund balance. Again, the fund balance at the end of the year was right at 45%, and you still well over the 34% threshold. And as you can tell, in the past 3 years, this has not been an issue. So I think just going forward, you'll be okay. Just write a letter saying, well, what you plan to do to mitigate this going forward. Also, the audit was late this year. That's partly due to us. You did have some single audits that we had to perform. That we were kind of late in noticing those. And those single audits do take a bit of time to get all the required documentation and actually accurately present those on the financials. And lastly was the budget ad valorem tax. Whenever you budget your ad valorem tax, it has to be within 3% of what you actually collect. So one of the things you probably need to look at around the fiscal year end is look how much you actually collected versus how much you budgeted for, and just ensure it's within 3%. So this year, you did not, it was a little over 8%. So those are the three issues that needs to be addressed in a letter to the LGC. There is a template out there, if Virginia hasn't already written it up, that she could use. Any questions, concerns?
Anyone have any questions of Mr. Eubanks at this time?
I have one question.
Go ahead.
There. And maybe Corey or Virginia could help. On that very last item under the performance indicators that taxes, 8.05% have not been collected, which is a lot more than usual. Is there a reason for that, Corey?
That's what I'm trying to look at now to see.
Pull up the actual financials.
Virginia, do you have anything for that? I'm not seeing anything other than we were roughly 5% off on the estimate.
Okay.
Yeah, so you budgeted for $2,364,000, and what we actually have collecting was the 2.1 million. So there's 190,000 difference on that, and that's what triggered the that variance.
And are we just taking a break now at this point to ask questions, or is this our last opportunity to ask questions?
No, I mean, we're open to ask questions right now.
Okay. Mr. Eubanks, on the fund balances, it appears, and I just need your confirmation on this, that our fund balance are well in excess of state requirements and our own stricter internal policies. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So going back, so the LGCs kind of switched up the way they started reviewing these fund balances, and they took each town and they divvied up based on the expenditures you have. So a town the size of Edenton for the general fund, anybody who's under $10 million falls under 34%. And again, going back to this slide, you are actually at 44.89%.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure. That's the way I read it. Thank you.
Quick question, what measures have you put in place to make sure everything gets filed timely next year?
Is that directed towards me?
Yes.
Yeah, so what we're going to do going forward is we have a grants workbook that I will be sending to all of my towns going forward. And as long as that grants workbook is completed ahead of time, it will allow us to know if there's a single audit and which single audit needs to be tested going forward. Because a lot of times, if the grant workbook isn't completely filled out or isn't filled out properly, it's not until we write up the financial statements, then we can see exactly how many grant expenditures was for a state program or a federal program. So as long as the grant workbook's filled out by the finance officer ahead of time, we can go ahead and start testing those on site for while we're for our field work.
Anyone else have a question, Mr. Eubanks?
I don't have a question, but just one thing. I want to thank Virginia for working through this. One thing to note here is we didn't have any audit findings. And just to provide you guys with an update, we will have a letter at our next meeting to follow up the LGC with our response for these three performance indicators that we just discussed, the tax, ad valorem tax difference, as well as the other two. But also keep in mind, one of the things here, I know we're seeing just a small dip there for our fund balance percentage compared to where we were last year. Got to keep in mind how many adjustments that we've made before June 30 of 2022 for some of the inventory and supply chains issues. And I think that's why you've seen some of these margins a little closer than what I think Virginia accurately forecasted that for this fiscal 22/23. We were better prepared for that. So don't let that scare you too much for what's there. That was us playing catch up with the market really for pricing.
Apparently all your department heads are working right along with you too, with Virginia.
Yes.
So they need to be.
Virginia and each of those department heads working together for us to not have any findings, and Virginia chime in at any time. This is
Good job.
This is not something that has happened over the last few years. And she's just done an amazing job cleaning up and continuing to chip away with some of the findings that we've had before.
It takes team effort, definitely.
Seems to.
And they don't seem to mind when I say no, no, no,
Okay.
no.
Thank-
That's my favorite word, right, Corey?
Yes,
Thank you for your leadership of that.
I get my daily dose, a lot.
And Corey, one thing that I would like to see moving forward, you've done a good job of addressing needs as they pop up. But I'd like to see us doing a better job, unless it's an emergency, if we've got big ticket items that they are budgeted. I know we've had to shift a lot of funds around, and they've all been important projects, and we've got one on before us tonight with the roads and streets. But if we can forecast and include that in the budget so that we don't have too many big ticket items pop up and we're making these budget adjustments. I know sometimes with the emergencies we need to, and I appreciate you juggling all that, but if we can, this budget season, kind of look ahead and see where we are and maybe do a little bit better job of that.
Not a problem.
Any further questions or comments to Mr. Eubanks? If not, sir, thank you very much for your participation and for a good report that you got for us. And I chime in with Corey in thanking Virginia. She's done a great job in getting all this together, and our fund balance is in great shape, which is thanks to her and Corey both together and all, I guess all the employees. So thank you, Virginia, for what you do.
Thank you.
All righty. Our next is a presentation from Snapback, North Carolina, Courtney Butler.
We got it up top.
First of all, we'd like to thank the mayor, Mr. Sallins, and the town manager, and the committee, the council, for allowing Snapback to come. My name is Mitchell Wynn. I'm the co-president for Snapback NC, along with Courtney Butler. And we just want to thank you for allowing us to come and present Snapback to you, so you can get an understanding of Snapback and why we have Snapback and why we bring it around and the purpose of Snapback. So we do have some information that we like to bring for you, towards you. And just to tell you a little bit about our mission. And our mission is, for Snapback, is to change the stigma of the population that struggles and with substance use, alcoholism, and mental illness. And along with that, we aim to bridge the gap between the individual and the needed support for them and their families. We provide peer support, community resources through support groups, therapeutic services, and educational workshops. Also working with the community to connect the family to other resources such as employment and continuing education. We link individuals to higher levels of care if needed. And also for inpatient treatment, we offer that, as well as sober living transition. We're looking to go into that, as well as psychiatric medication management through Snapback as well. And Snapback NC also works with the individual and their families on long-term treatment plans through personal-centered goals, utilizing a peer support approach by individuals that understand firsthand. And this is what what we're going over is what is being handed out to you now, and that way you will probably be able to follow us, and we won't stay before you long. But mainly we are helping the family to navigate the journey of recovery. So the next page is, it's about do you know, but actually this is I'd like to present it to you for FYI. And this FYI is the 59%. This is what Snapback done the research, and what we found to be a fact, that 59.3 million people, which is 21.4% in the U.S. age 12 and older, have used illicit drugs within the last year. Now, in North Carolina, statistics of overdoses result in death climbed 40% from 2019 to 2020. which is very alarming, and which is average also 9 deaths per day in our state. 23.5 million people in the U.S. age 18 plus are in recovery. And we're seeing this every day that we're opening our doors. And a study provided by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services states around 14% of behavioral health treatment facilities in the U.S. are in rural communities, and less than half of these specialize in addiction treatment. And last but not least on this particular page, 11.2% of those struggling in the U.S. with substance abuse and or alcoholism have access treatment and or support. And to us, this is what motivated us from finding these findings to go forward with our with Snapback NC. So at this time, I'm going to allow Courtney to come and talk to you about the peer support.
Good evening, folks. I appreciate your time. Bear with me with my allergy stuff going on. I think we're all enjoying the nice weather, but it's not helping my head. Mitchell and I joined each other a little over a year ago. Peer support services became something in the mental health field back in 2017. It was based off of helping people on their journey, whether it be substance use and alcoholism or mental health, helping them by empowering them, giving them the impact based on personal experience. What we did when we researched it is we learned that peer support is being used in hospitals, it's being used in rehabilitation centers, it's being used in rehabilitation centers for physical ailments due to mental health. It's being used by the VA. In fact, they actually have it to vote on this year to cover peer support services through TRICARE. Peer support is proven to improve the quality of life, improve engagement and satisfaction with services and supports, improve whole health, including chronic conditions like diabetes, and decrease the hospitalization and inpatient days, which reduces the overall cost of services, not just for the individual, but the community that it impacts. Peer support services currently is only covered by Medicaid. It's a Medicaid billable service. It's not covered by private insurances. There are 2 insurances that actually have it on their coverage, but it's also the top tier service. Unfortunately, in small areas like ours and in other areas that have low income and are poverty stricken, a lot of people that are out here working every day don't qualify for Medicaid and therefore can't access these services. Medicaid reimbursement rates that were last listed in April of 2022 for peer support services and are still current going into 2023. The reimbursement rate currently is $50.04 per hour. One full round of service for one client is authorization for 90 days at 5 hours per week. So a full round of treatment is $3,002.45, and that's at the Medicaid reimbursement rate. We come here today not just to let you know that we're here, but to present, we'd like to propose a community partnership with the town of Edenton and Snapback NC. We are proposing a community partnership to help with the cost of services for individuals that don't have Medicaid, that are seeking support, that are seeking recovery, want to get clean, but don't have anywhere to turn. The only other place that offers peer support services currently is Port Health. We had the opportunity to meet with the one gentleman in our area that's licensed other than the staff at our office. You're only allowed to have 15 people on your caseload at a time. He is completely maxed out and people are walking in the door every day and he has nowhere to send them to. So we're asking that you take this information, that you think about it, that you talk about it. Please ask questions. We'd like to build a community partnership to bridge that gap so that we can reach more individuals. Our phones are ringing. People do want help and we're here to do what we can, not just for them, but for the entire community.
And with that said, we are working hard to work with community partners all over that we can help, bring the cost down so we can be able to operate. Yes?
With your therapeutic counseling, are you actually going to the home, or are they coming to your office, or are you doing both?
We're doing both.
Doing both?
Yes.
Peer support is based off of the community-based approach.
Right.
I currently have one client that I've met her at home, I've met her out in the community, she's come to the office. It kind of just depends where they're at,
Right.
what they feel comfortable with.
It's not just Edenton either, is it? It's the surrounding community. What is your parameter?
We can service as far out as Dare County, Pasquotank, Perquimans, Hosky, Williamston,
Right.
wherever the need is.
At the current time, do you have qualified staff to do all this?
Yes.
Great.
Quick question, I think this is so needed.
It
It's
is.
so much better than incarceration. It's just,
Yes.
it's less expensive, it's, it's meaningful. And I think Hack and I both have tons of clients that we see in criminal court that can really benefit from that. And so, are you working with the court system too? Okay.
We are in meetings with,
Right.
Is the Medicaid rate, how does that compare with your costs?
the reality of it is Medicaid reimbursement rates, I mean, we all know this,
Yeah.
the health field in itself are substantially lower
Yeah.
than what the actual cost is. The reality of this is we're not in the business to turn anybody away.
Right.
If they're seeking support, the Medicaid reimbursement rate is where we're staying at.
Is there insurance available for this type of service? Private insurance?
Does not cover it. There are two. It's Aetna and Cigna, I believe, and they're the third tier
Okay.
of their plans. And a lot of companies, especially in our area, don't offer those higher plans, nor can the individuals afford it.
Where in Edenton are you located at?
703 North Broad Street.
North Broad Street?
Yes.
Can
In the
someone,
Shopping center up there on the left.
Across from the Boy Scout.
Yeah.
okay. Can someone recommend someone to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Of course, how do you receive your referrals? Where do they come from?
So it's not, fortunately with Medicaid, a referral is not required. We are actually doing a full service. We're actually working with a local clinician to where everything can be done in one company instead of having to refer them out to other places. They don't need to be referred to us. We've actually had probation here locally that has gotten our information and told their clients, hey, you need to go see them. Hey, you need to go try this out. So there isn't a standard formal referral that's required.
Are physicians not referring? Physicians, are they referring?
They don't know about us yet.
Okay.
We're pushing our info out.
Okay.
Right.
We're rolling.
We're rolling,
And we're
okay.
talking with other clinicians as well outside of Edenton, and they are calling saying that they don't have anywhere to send their clients.
Okay.
So we're trying to get some of those on board that is licensed to do certain things so we can broaden ourselves out to be able to offer more services.
Like Sambo said, we need this service.
Exactly,
We
yes.
really do.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And you mentioned inpatients, like inpatient treatment. Is that something you refer to another agency?
Yes.
And we do inpatient services all the time for someone that's had several GWIs.
Right.
And is that something that we can start using you for?
You're more than welcome to send them our way. We do have some contacts with some local. In fact, one of our clients, we just got into detox a little over a week ago by making a phone call and moving mountains to get this gentleman in, and he's out, and he's home, and he's working his steps.
Do you follow up on these people too after?
Yes.
You have,
Because we offer a service every Thursday night
Okay.
as well, and once a month we'll do the family sessions, as well. So even if you were to, refer them over, we would get them that outpatient service where it's needed. They might have to go through detox or something. So we'll get them that service, but then after that, we do the follow-up, with them and continue to be a
Good.
client.
Where do you get most of your funding? I'm sorry.
Our board members.
Yes.
Okay.
Our board members, we are currently self-sustaining as far as our office bills.
Right.
Mitchell and I are working with a local company that we do a VIP service for them where they have hired us to be on staff for their employees' mental health. And that's paying the bills right now. All of us work a lot of other jobs just so we can take care of our own families, while
Because
we're
it's
getting this
needed.
going. Yeah.
Well, we all know that this is an escalating problem, and thank you for doing what you're doing. And we've got budget time coming up pretty soon, and I think we need to find a way to fund not a lot, but some funding that we can afford to do. So, because, I mean, it is without a doubt an escalating problem
Yes,
everywhere. And we just appreciate what you are doing,
yes, more than we can handle.
and I'm sure.
How big the problem really
Yeah.
is.
And I just wanted to add before we close out, by servicing the whole family unit, I know that Mitchell touched on adding different services so that we can be a full functioning. We are looking to add services within the next 3 to 6 months, cater towards the children that are suffering due to the mental illness and the substance use on their parents' behalf. Mitchell has connections within the school. He's worked with kids in these same situations for years, and that's kind of where our passion is, to not just serve the individual, which is where I shine, but to serve the entire family.
Go ahead.
Just one more question, because I know we've been pairing with the school system, the College of Albemarle, some of our private industries here. And Craig, you were nipping on to something there about the follow-up after the fact. Is there any workforce development that's tied to this piece to help? I know you said you have a private partner now that you deal directly with, but I think that may be a greater resource to getting people back into the cycle. I mean, we have an abundance of jobs. We have a lot of technical training that's out there now from public-private partnerships, and I didn't know if that was a piece of this as well.
That is definitely a piece of the community resource. We want to help these folks. I know for me personally, I needed help on budgeting. I needed help on financing, my household. We want to gauge out into those workshops to help these individuals and their families for employment. That big piece. If they want to further their education, if they're looking to learn how to budget, training workshops, trade schools, those kind of things. So we are working with COA as well on trying to get some extra resources for our clients.
Okay, good.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's very interesting.
Thank you.
Okay, the next thing on our agenda is a resolution for Surf, Wind, and Fire food truck for their Sunday event. Timmy Turner, there you go.
Thanks for
The floor is
having me.
yours, sir.
Thank you. So once again, this Sunday, March 5th, we are planning on having another food truck Sunday street party event on King Street. So we're closing off King Street from South Broad Street to Colonial Avenue. We have Big Boss Burritos food truck confirmed. We have ordered a porta potty, and I believe we have everything, all of our I's dotted and T's crossed. So once again, we're asking for a resolution to allow beer and wine basically on King Street for people to sip while they wait in line for their burritos and while they sit down and eat their burritos. And
Looks like you're going to have good weather.
Hope so.
Yeah,
yes.
weather looks good.
And then also, again, on April 2nd, we are planning another similar party. That'll be our 2-year anniversary of having the shop open. So for this Sunday, March 5th, and for April 2nd, we're asking for the same resolution.
Timmy, does the area include also Malcolm's? At one time, it seemed like we did include Malcolm's.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. We are also asking that perimeter to include a corridor that we will block off with chains from King Street to Edenton Bay Trading Company, so that people can also enjoy their food and beverages from Malcolm's to King Street.
And Timmy, you've already had one of these, right? Is it similar to that?
Yes.
Other than the fact you're asking that it be extended down to Edenton Bay Trading Company?
Yes, correct.
And I didn't hear any reports of any problems. Did you have any problems with the first event?
We did not, no.
How many food trucks will you have? Just one?
We'll just have one this coming Sunday. We're hoping to do these types of events more often. So we're hoping the more we do them, the more information we'll have, the more we'll know what to expect, and then in the future maybe having multiple food trucks if there's demand for it. But this Sunday it'll just be Big Boss Burritos.
How are y'all promoting it?
Mostly on Facebook right now and word of mouth.
One thing to note here, what we've done is because we're entering into more of our spring weather, some of the initial resolutions that council approved for similar events have been really kind of based on an individual date, really to try to see the business interactions, the public interactions, to really kind of tread the water. What's unique with this resolution, one thing to note here, is it is for 2 dates. So we have a March 5th date as well as an April 2nd
That's
date.
covering.
That we know, kind of a first Sunday event that Timmy and I have spoke about as we kind of enter our warmer weather. We do think this is something that the businesses here will promote to try to grow as we go to, and the group has really done a good job on providing a lunch option on Sundays downtown in Edenton. And I think before we've talked about some of the additional number of business opening hours and visitors that have came through also as a result of some activity being downtown.
Do you need a motion?
Yes.
I so move for the resolution.
Okay.
Approve for those 2 dates. Yeah.
So, okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing in the town. Okay, the next is a license agreement with Down and Out East Investments and Dawson Tyler. Represented, let's see, are you gonna represent it or is Joe?
I think Joe, the Carolina basketball game, got me this weekend, so
Okay.
Joe's gonna take over on the
He's on
presentation.
Zoom, Mayor.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Joe, we can hear you. He's on Zoom.
Okay.
He's on Zoom in.
All right,
Let
Joe,
me know
go
when-
ahead.
Okay. First, a real quick question. Is the presentation material visible?
Not yet, Joe.
Hard copies. Do you have the?
While the visual aid is coming up, I will go ahead and start if that's okay.
Yes, sir, please do.
All right, thank you, Mayor Stallings and council members. I appreciate your time and the opportunity to come before you again. I apologize for the remote attendance. This was originally on your last meeting, and this trip was already planned to be out of state, so my apologies for that. But it's always a pleasure to present to you, and I think last time I came before you, we had not yet opened the herringbone. We were getting close to that opening, and at that time, I shared with you some projections and some expectations that we had in terms of the economic impact that we hoped the herringbone would have on the town of Edenton. We opened the herringbone on October 28th, had our formal grand opening on October 19th, as you're probably aware. So we now have about 4 months under our belt, and so I can report to you, and I'm happy to report to you, that the herringbone is alive and well, and hopefully a place that many Edentonians and many people from outside the county and across the state have come to enjoy. I wanted to share some of the data points with you with where we are now. So the first, I don't know, do we have the visual aid up at this point?
No, Joe, we're having a couple of issues here, trying to get something going for you, but not at this time.
Let's see.
They're
Can
in the
you-
packet.
It's in our packet.
Yeah.
Could I, oh, you're following along in the packet. Is that okay then if I proceed?
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So with respect to job creation, we have well exceeded our expectations for jobs created. Our current payroll is 50 employees. We have, our hours are open every day for both lunch and dinner, so that has driven a higher demand for jobs. The good news is we filled in a couple of the more difficult points during the week for dining options on Sunday, all day Sunday, and on Monday evenings, which have been a challenge. But that has driven to 50 jobs. These jobs range from entry-level kind of jobs up to very precise and specific skills of pastry chef, executive chef, and the like. So our pay range, we have part-time, we have full-time, we have hourly people, we have salaried people, we have people that have full medical benefits on our payroll. So really hit a diverse set of folks there. One of the most exciting things about these jobs that have been created is even in the short 4 months that we've been opened, it's been great to see some of the folks that have come in at the entry level, shown an interest, and we've been able to grow them through out of the doing dishes up into prep work, learning line cook, and teaching them how to do food service and culinary activities. And so it's almost becoming a training ground, and that is one of the most exciting things for me to see with our staff. Second thing to note with respect to revenue for the town, our projections, we're exceeding our projections in terms of sales revenue, so the tax collected will exceed well north of $100,000 per year of tax revenue collected. Additionally, with the improvements that we've made to the building, significant improvements, as you are well aware, our tax rate, our taxes due to the county have increased considerably as well. On more of an anecdotal note, the Herringbone has provided a destination of sorts for the surrounding areas, and we seem to be drawing in people, plenty of people from Edenton, but also the surrounding counties, and even as far west as Raleigh and Durham. We have people in the restaurant that say they heard about us, they decided to come for the weekend, they stay here, they stay at our hotels, and they stay at our Airbnbs, and they eat at other restaurants, and they shop at our retailers, and it's bringing economic activity to our area from Chesapeake and the like. So the idea of us being a destination seems to be becoming fulfilled. And finally, with the addition of our restaurant to the already other fine restaurants in town, we've kind of hit critical mass on creating somewhat of a food scene, and people from neighboring areas are more likely to come here. We had a group from Elizabeth City that said they were excited to finally come to Edenton and have some options when they're here. So we see the growth of this driving economic goodness in our community. So I hope that we continue in that path. I hope you agree with me that that is a good thing for Edenton, and I hope you've had the opportunity to come dine at our establishment and see that we think it's a good place to be and just good for Edenton all the way around. So today, what we are here to request is the completion of our restoration project. Needs one final little piece. At the time of our restoration, there's a photo in your packet that is a historical picture of the building, and there are two porches noted on there. One is the southern porch, and one is the western porch. And when I came before you last time, we talked exclusively about the southern porch, because the western porch, due to its proximity to the bay there and the water, we had additional work we had to do through CAMA to get approval for that. So that got put on hold while we completed the rest of the project. We now have a fully executed building permit from CAMA and the county for the construction of the west porch, and we would like to begin construction on that. We also have full approval of that porch from the Historical Commission as well. So we have everything we need for that, except for where that porch is drawn. If you'll notice on the schematic diagram, the overview picture, you'll see there is a blue area that's our existing deck and the existing encroachment agreement of 5 feet where we store the kayaks underneath. This, as we do the west deck and we make the turn around the south, around to the west, there's an additional 5-foot strip there along the west deck piece that is town property. And so what we're requesting is to extend that encroachment agreement that we already have in place to just continue around onto the west deck there. That will provide an additional 16 feet of kayak and paddleboard storage for the town, and it will provide a seating area and a very smooth transition around the corner of the deck and a place where people can sit and enjoy the beautiful views up Pembroke Creek. So we ask your consideration on the request to extend the existing 5-foot encroachment agreement to extend on the west deck portion, and it's shown in green on the diagram. And that is our request tonight.
Thank you, Joe, for your presentation. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I got a question. What kind of barrier are you going to put up between your business and your neighbor?
The neighbor to the west, there is a 28.6 foot shared property line there that is fully screened at this point. There's a fence along the direct abutted shared property line. That is already in place. There's also additional screening beyond the shared space of the boat building. And then there's an additional about 20 feet of screening provided with some magnolia bushes. Now, to be clear, the screening requirement, as I understand it, the zoning requirements between commercial properties, there is no statute, ordinance, or otherwise that requires any screening between commercial properties.
Corey, I've got a couple questions of you. In our packet, there's a color photograph, a current color photograph, looking at the rear elevation of the building, which shows the existing deck and kayak storage. Do you have that available to you?
I do.
Okay. And I want to make sure that everyone understands, including those of us that are sitting here, but also people in the audience are listening in, about what we're considering tonight and what we're not considering. The main part of the deck itself is not before us tonight. That's allowed by code, it's allowed by zoning, and has been approved by the Historic Commission. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that's going to be there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, regardless of what we do. And if you look at that picture for the fellow councilman, the magnolia buffers that we're talking about, you can see that towards the left of the picture, if y'all look at it at 49. And Corey, when you see that last magnolia bush or tree there, is that right at the end of down and out east property line? Because as I understand it, that western property line that runs along the water, part of it belongs to down and out east, and then there becomes a portion of it that's owned by the town.
That's correct.
And where does the dividing line between the town and down and out east lie as we're looking at that picture? If you can, if you know, in between.
The photo here of the overhead view, the down and out east property roughly ends where this landscaping is here, and then the town property actually starts just past that and actually continues south towards.
So down and east has screened up as far as they can screen, at least on their property, and then where we see that open space, that's the town's property?
Yes,
is that
that's
the way I
correct.
understand the lay of the land?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Hack, I've thought about this all day, because I mean, I think we'd like to find a solution to make everybody happy, but I mean, the idea of, I mean, I think the most important land here is the waterfront. And so people like to fish and look at it and use it and pull boats up to it, and I don't see how, I mean, I think that's more of a giveaway. If you give away the waterfront by screening it, it means the public can't use it at all. And so I think that that's the complete wrong thing to do.
Are you saying that sitting on that deck, having a meal,
I'm
and
not
looking?
talking about sitting on the deck, I'm talking about, you know, my child comes home and wants to go fishing.
Yeah.
If it's screened with trees and magnolias, they can't access the water from there, and it's still town property. And I think when you cut off the right to access the water, the public is losing the benefit of the property, really, to tell you the truth. Much more so than the 5 feet that we're, you know, basically letting them use while they own the property. I mean, it's that strip that's next to the water that's important, and that needs to be open so that people can pull boats up, people can, you know, whatever, maybe they'll start herring dipping again. I mean, you know, they'll be able to do things you do on the water. And I think to say all of a sudden we're gonna seal that off with a buffer, it's just not right. I mean, I've been thinking about it all day, and looked at it, and, you know, I just think that people will want to use that waterfront.
My point is that I was thinking about the neighbor. He's a citizen, he pays taxes. I was thinking about his buffer. Could we have a big enough buffer, say, so he won't see the people out there enjoying themselves, eating and drinking? Can he have the privacy in his yard? Because he don't want people looking in on him.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to figure out a way to do that, but I don't see how we can do that without taking away the public's right to use some of the most important land. And I mean, I'd love to figure out a way to make this work for Steve, but I can't figure that out. I'd love to be able to do that, but I think once you take away the access for all the people of Edenton to fish and whatever they do down there, it really hinders the public use of land.
Well,
And we
magnolia
don't-
trees are not gonna keep people from going out to the water.
They're planted right along the edge, they will.
They're planted right along the edge, but there's gonna be space between them.
I mean, that, not in 5 years, there isn't. I think it's gonna be totally a wall, and you won't be able to use it at all. It's only about 5 feet in there. How much is it that's left between the deck and the?
I would say that at most 6 feet, 5 or 6 feet is what runs along there, and it may be less than that.
But magnolia trees are not gonna be side by side. You're gonna have some space between them.
I understand, but they get big. I mean, look at the ones in Missy and Scotty's yard. I mean, they're huge.
It takes time, though.
Yeah.
Sambo, I think my point, I wouldn't be recommending anything that would extend that entire water line or even the majority of that water line because, you know, I just somewhat share your concern, but, and one thing I do agree with you, I think we've got an opportunity to maybe work this out where it would not adversely affect the herringbone and would not adversely affect the neighbor. So, I mean, in one way, we're speaking the same language that I think we've got an opportunity to be neighborly to both, as a town, to be neighborly to both.
I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't see how with public land, we can restrict that use. I mean, that's, I don't know.
No, I get that. And
Corey, is there any way we could beef up around where the growing magnolias are now at the corner? Can we beef that up a little bit?
Well, what's there is currently on the down and out east property. So anything beyond what's there would need to be added to on private property to enhance that. I think some of the question here is revolving around the town-owned property that.
yeah, that's what I'm referring to, the town-owned
Town,
property.
okay.
I think Joe and Dawson have put those things on their property up to the line. There's no more of their property to do. They've put it all the way to their line. But referring back to that picture of the rear elevation, when I'm looking at it, it only seems to, you know, need a little bit more. I feel like we're close. And again, Sambo, I'm not talking about taking up a whole lot of space, but it seems like we're close to maybe recognizing these concerns and just with a little more on our part. What I'm talking about is what the town can do, not necessarily what down and out east can do, because I think it's been made clear they've put vegetative buffers up to their property line, and now it's on us. But as I look at that elevation, and I certainly wouldn't want to do anything that would block the view of the bay or the creek, but certainly maybe we can do a little bit more that would block that house. I'm not sure if I'm eating out there, if I want to be looking at the house anyway. I would be preferred to look out to the bay, and so I'm not
Do you have a tree
asking.
species in mind?
I don't. All I'm saying is I think we need to keep it open and commit, keeping the issue open and commit to trying to figure out a way, maybe sitting down with both sides and seeing if we can figure something out. And again, it's on town land, so I'm talking about us being the partner with both sides to try to figure out
I think
what
this
we
is
can
something
do.
we can work out.
And for us, anything, I mean, I think Hack brings up a good point. What Joe and the folks from down and out east have done is really maximize their footprint of that waterfront. And I think really now is a compromise for the town, because whatever happened now will ultimately would be on town property is what we do. And I think for us, getting the pier in place probably gives a better idea of what
You
you're
mean the
looking
deck?
at. The deck, yeah. The deck in place is an opportunity to find that common ground. I mean, the deck is gonna be there regardless
Right.
of whatever screening that we talk about, but that space, I mean, I don't think you can put it in perspective until that's made. And Joe has been really good about the kayak storage, and we're gaining more of that here. So I do see the benefit of.
Are you saying we come back to that after that deck is
Well,
constructed?
we won't know the sight lines until we know them,
Yeah.
until it's there. But all I'm asking is that we remain committed to keep on talking about it, because I think we got an opportunity to help down and out east, have a good deck where there's good water views, but also help out the adjoining property owners.
I think we agree.
I mean,
I think
the deck's already
from our
there, so
perspective-
there's not, I mean, that's not before, it's
From our
just that
perspective-
extension of it. Yeah.
Joe, do you have a comment?
Yes, I do have a comment. I'm sorry, it's hard for me to raise my hand from here. Our concern from the herringbone is that the town, our neighbor on that property line, that shared property line, that the town constructing any screening there is an obstruction of our sight lines. And we've gone to great lengths to not obstruct any sight lines of the neighboring property. Maintaining sight lines is one thing. Screening is quite the other. Screening is actually taking away sight lines. So any discussion of the town putting screening along that strip is obstructing our current sight lines that we have. So we very much would not like to entertain any screening along that side, that strip, because that is where our existing sight lines are. Now, in preserving sight lines and preserving our sight lines as well as preserving the sight lines of the neighbor's property, we're all on board there. And that's why we've taken care to not build high sides on this pier or anything that would obstruct sight lines. We want to keep those open and not take away sight lines. So, we are asking for a 5-foot extension down at the very south end that has nothing to do with these sight lines or nothing to do with the screening on the west side of the building. Everything we're asking is down at the south end of the pier. It has nothing to do with the west side. So whether we have the 5-foot agreement from the town or not, it doesn't really affect this western side. So to be clear, we will give up the 5-foot request of the encroachment if it means we can keep our unobstructed views to the west. We don't want to obstruct our views to the west at all.
Joe,
Yes, Councilman High.
and/or Dawson, how long would it take you after approval to construct that deck?
From like start of construction to finish, takes a couple weeks.
What you got on your mind?
Well, I know we've got spring right around the corner and summer. That's why I asked the question, right around the corner. But it seems like to me we might have some more talking to do. And I don't want to delay it where, they're not going to be able to enjoy it later on in the spring when it gets warmer. March is still fairly cold around here. But we need to do some more talking on it, and it's not gonna unduly delay them. I don't know, we just heard Joe mention something that might, I don't know if that would be something that we might want to entertain, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, and sometimes that's dangerous when you do that in a public meeting.
So, Hack, the one thing that I would add is, obviously, when I say that 2 weeks, I have to have my personnel free
Yeah,
to do that.
Yeah, I understand.
And, that 2 weeks is looking like, it's gonna be at the end of March, early April. So there really isn't time from my standpoint, as far as scheduling this thing and having it on my books so that I can, plan my business around when I need to do work and where I need to do it. I need to know a declarative answer today, or as soon to it as we possibly can.
Hank, were you suggested that we wait to make a final decision after the deck is built? Is that what you were referring to, or?
Well, earlier I was saying that once the deck is built, that we would then know the sight lines, and we could know more about what effect it would have either on the restaurant sight lines or the neighbor's sight lines. But when we heard,
what I'm hearing is that they don't even want it if that's the case.
Yeah, we would,
Just
go
withdraw.
up to 5 foot, and there would be a notch in our deck. We'd build the deck on the other side, and we would forego.
well, I'm in favor. I mean, because 90% of the deck is already there. I don't have a problem with the request that they're making.
The 5 feet encroachment.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Can we
I just,
ask the property owner what he would like to see?
Sure.
Hmm?
I don't see why not.
Well, that's.
Steve.
The property owner.
I'm talking about the neighbor. Steve, what would you like to see go up there as a barrier?
I know what I don't want to see.
Tell me what would make you happy. Huh?
I said, I know what I don't want to see. Is
What's that?
somebody to be in my backyard. They don't want to look at me no more, I want to look at them. I'm not asking to block the view of the water, not one bit. But there's a fine line there that somebody ain't gonna look back towards the northwest where I am. The south, is plentiful right there.
I mean, I think the only way to accomplish that would be if we could build some sort of a berm or something out into the water, and we could plant trees on that.
what's that now?
Build a
There's
berm.
no way to
I don't see that happening.
accomplish what Steve's talking about, unless we want to build something out in the water that then, obstructs that view.
No, I'm gonna do
But
that.
then it would obstruct his view as well. There's just gonna be a more view.
For the record, we very much support any screening that Mr. Leary would like to build on his property. We completely support that. We don't think the burden should be on us or the town.
Our property, not Steve's property. And we're here today discussing our property.
I know that, but
Steve
still,
doesn't know now that.
he don't want to look at the people on your property doing what they're gonna be doing, and he don't want you looking in on him.
Steve builds a residential home on a commercial piece of land. And ours is a commercial piece of land. And when you do that, you take the risk of someone using that piece of land that is beside you for commerce. That is why it's there, that's why it's designated as such. And that's what we're doing with it.
When I built that piece of property, the town was supposed to turn mine into residential. The county did it on tax purposes. And I had to go by the height restrictions and everything for residential. I never checked on it, to make sure it was done until this crowd comes in here. But the town should have done that 25 years ago. They didn't do it. Am I right for it?
From our conversations, yes, sir.
So mine is commercial, but it should be residential. I had no reason to go back and check and see if it was until this crowd moved in.
I'm at a loss. I'm looking to the rest of y'all.
Can we come back,
for guidance.
to the screening after the deck is constructed?
Here is.
They're looking for a
what
5 foot
Dawson
encroachment.
Is asking specifically is between the town and down and out east. So for us, for what we're particularly talking about tonight is the consideration of the additional 5 by
5 feet.
16 for the kayak storage and the extension of the
Correct.
deck.
And can we come back later and,
That's something,
But I think what we're hearing is they don't even want anything if that's the case.
No.
I mean, I think that's that's what I'm hearing from everybody is that if we're gonna screen it, they're just gonna leave it like it is. So they don't want us to vote on it.
But, and I'm not saying we would, I don't want to be misunderstood. I just think there's an opportunity where we can address all concerns. And I've already stated that I'm in favor of the 16 by 5 because 90% of the deck's already there. But just what I am seeing with just a little bit more that would not block anybody's view other than basically their view of the neighbor or the neighbor's view of part of them, just with a little bit more. I just feel like we're so close.
Heck, or you suggest like 2 more trees? We got 3 trees, you think 2 or
Toshtown could help us with it.
I mean, and at the same time, we're getting bogged down. There's only one thing in front of us right now, and that's whether to request it, whether to grant
The encroachment.
request. Yeah.
That's what you're asking for, the 5-foot encroachment. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the request tonight, and that's what we need to consider as part of this agenda item.
But still, as a town councilman, his property is next to it. We're not going to take in his consideration of his privacy?
Understood, but what we need to decide tonight is if we're okay with them coming up there. The entire deck itself is approved to be built.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they rescind or council chooses not to approve it, the deck's still there. I think at that time is the town's opportunity to consider the shading piece on town property for any neighbor concerns.
At a later date.
Yes.
So right now, you need to know whether or not we approve the 5-foot encroachment.
Yes.
Mayor, are you make a motion?
Sure.
Make a motion, we approve the 5-foot encroachment.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would like to come back, though,
Yes.
later on, with the screening issue.
Any further discussion?
Will we be visiting this later?
If that's your
I think
request, Mayor Pro Tem.
I think that's part of your motion.
That's part of the motion, yeah. Is that okay with you?
We okay? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried. To make that clear, what that,
That approved the 5 by 16 section if they so choose to enter into that agreement.
Right.
With the understanding that the town has the opportunity to reapproach the screening issue on town property in the future.
Okay.
Okay.
all right. All right, moving on.
Can I ask Joe one question? Joe, how do you enter the new deck area? Do you come through the old deck area or is there a separate entrance?
There's 2 ways to enter the new deck area. One is from the existing deck area as you just walk around the corner. The other is through the doors. There are doors on the connector section of the building that connects the boathouse to the rest of the building. And on those doors, there are doors that go outside there. And so you can enter from that direction as well.
Corey, is there anything improper, like when Joe gets back in town with me and you, or you and Samba, or somebody going out there, and because it's hard for me looking at the elevation to see where the 4 corners of that deck are going to be, and somebody, a group of us and you, as long as it's not a quorum, go out there and just see where the 4 corners
I think
of that
we
deck
all
are.
need to take that site. I think we all need to look at it and see what.
We would probably have to do it separately
Yeah,
to avoid a
Right, yeah.
open meetings
But I
violation.
think you're right, Mayor. I go along with that 100%.
Joe?
We all need to go out there.
Joe,
Yes.
What,
I would be happy to meet with
3 at a time?
any of you anytime when I get back. I get back Friday. So.
okay, that was my
Yeah,
question.
3 at a time, no more than that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay,
Oh,
we're
yeah,
ready
took
to
some
move
better
on.
pictures
Yeah.
today.
All right. The next item E is the purchase agreement for R&M Trailer Park and the water distribution system. And Corey, I'll let you take that one if you will.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So what we have tonight, when
We
we
give up that light,
started,
wouldn't it?
All you're preparing is looking that way, you're not preparing this way.
Y'all got your mic.
when we started the AMR water meter replacement project, the town had worked for multiple years identifying and surveying all the water meters that we had in our entire water system. This included all the public and privately owned water meters. Part of these efforts were to take into account any service or billing issues that we have around customer service improvements. We also did this to identify the opportunities for any dead-end lines that we have that affect the water quality. Since we started this project, I have had some discussions with some of the privately owned water systems that are in town that we currently serve, electric, trash, and any sewer. And also, we have had these conversations with myself as well as the Public Works Director, really because there's also some billing issues that come up when you have larger systems that are fed through individually meters. In a perfect world, every home and every customer in town would have one dedicated connection for sewer and also for water. But we found there are anomalies, and this is one that we had surveyed. We've actually walked down the property. We spoke with Mr. Granby, and what we're requesting tonight is that for the price of $1 that the town is able to purchase and increase our customer count by 17. Currently, this site only has one water meter that feeds the property. Mr. Granby has agreed to sell the property. What was interesting as we've looked at some of these the that have been added to our system and have grown over the years is how similar they are to the town's current system. We did reach out to Hood and get him to draft a purchase agreement. What we have here tonight is from the town attorney. This would allow the town to actually purchase and maintain the water system that's there. We had taken this into account when we estimated the number of customers that we would order meters from when we started the AMR project, and so these 17 are at no additional cost to the town other than the $1 to actually purchase the system up to the meter basis. I do recommend that council considers this. What this will give us the opportunity to do is that flushing devices to keep those lines clear, to also help the water quality for those customers, and it also is one of the very few services that we already are not providing to these customers. So this would basically absorb this into the town's water system.
Any
You need
comments
a
or
motion?
questions of Corey?
You need a motion?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, now we go into our committee reports, and the first one is the Administrative Committee, and that is chaired by Councilman High.
Thank you, Mayor Stallings. At our last meeting, we had a very minimal report, and at the end of that meeting, we went into closed session to discuss the ongoing litigation regarding the monument with our attorney. In that meeting, we discussed three options with our attorney and asked his advice on those options. And the first option was the Beaver Hill location that was recommended by the Human Relations Commission. Our attorney advised us, because the statute specifically prohibits moving a monument to a cemetery, that would be the least feasible one of all, and he did not give us much hope that that particular option would ever pass a court approval or be agreed upon as far as a resolution with the plaintiffs. The second location was a small location behind the new courthouse on Court Street, and that location is no longer viable because the county is not willing to enter into an agreement with the town in order to facilitate that location. A third location was Elizabeth Van Moore Park that's on the east end of Water Street, and for various reasons and concerns, the administrative committee and full council in that closed session did not believe that to be a viable site either. At the end of our closed session, we did discuss a fourth opportunity to move this in a fourth location, and that location would be the Hollowell Park, which is on West Queen Street, across from Dairy Queen, or excuse me, not Dairy Queen, but Tasty Freeze. Yeah. And our attorney indicated that of the options, that may well be the most feasible of those options. We talked about it a little bit, did not come to any decisions at that point in time, and felt it would be best to mention that, bring that up to the public in this meeting, that we did bring that up, and also get discussion from each of us as to that location. And if we, in discussing it openly tonight, feel like that is an option that we want to pursue, then we would ask that it be scheduled for a vote either at the March meeting or earlier at a special meeting, as the case may be. So I would just like to open it at this time for comments on that location.
I think we're talking about that being a prominent location, mainly next to the most well-traveled road in Edenton, I think you mentioned. And
that's correct. So we have reached out and received some data from DOT as well as some of our other partners to basically confirm that.
And the statute talks in terms of prominence, and that's been one of the things that we have to take that into consideration. I know there's certain segments of our population that wants it to remain the same. I think there's a certain amount of our population that wants it gone or wants it in some place where it can't be seen. But the statute that we're having to deal with right now does call for it to be in a place of prominence, and we seem to think that stands the best chance of passing court muster. Have no guarantee of that. We still are in litigation. So, Councilman Bond, what are your thoughts on it?
I think it's a good location. It's at a prominent spot. It can be seen from the highway. People can park and go to it. It's a beautiful little location. I see nothing wrong with it.
I have a question about the Human Relations Commission. Did they actually recommend the Beaver Hill 6th Street, or did they just recommend a relocation?
They recommended the Beaver Hill.
They recommended Beaver
Just
Hill.
want to check on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Councilman Dixon?
I think it's a good location. I mean, I'm vote for it.
I'd push for Beaver Hill, but I think this is, as an option and a compromise, an excellent location. I don't know, certainly not very far to carry it. Would not take it off our central square, and I think our promise was to relocate it and get it out of the center of town, and Hollowell Park would do that.
Does anybody have a motion to that effect? No, a motion that we move it forward to a vote. Excuse me, a motion that we move it
Move it
forward to a
forward
vote.
for a vote at our next meeting.
Okay. Or earlier if that
Earlier,
can be
if possible.
settled. Set? Are you okay with that?
I'm totally okay with that.
Yep.
All right, sounds like we've got a consensus to do that, Mayor Stallings, and Corey, if you'll work on that for us. And Mayor, that concludes my committee's report.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our next committee report is the Finance Committee, and that's chaired by Councilman Dixon.
This is pretty mundane compared to stuff we've been talking about. So, one is a resolution for the approval of and sale of, is it two water
Yes.
pumps.
Yes.
And that's been in our packet, and I would just say we move that forward to full council. The second thing is a little more interesting, is that the resolution, for a loan at Southern Bank for the fire department, air packs and radios. And Corey, you have a preference of the two options that are in our packet.
I do. So the resolution was left open-ended for two items, the term and the rate. We received two packets back, a 7-year loan and a 10-year. And I would like to recommend that if we consider this, that we go with the 7-year.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so unless anybody has any, move that to full council.
Both of y'all agree on that?
Yeah.
You think that makes sense?
I think that's, I mean, it's
What are you talking about, saving $7,000 in
Yeah.
interest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No-brainer.
No brainer.
Yeah.
and then we have a budget amendment for the fire department, air packs and loan proceeds.
Yes, that's-
Follows that. And then the most important thing I think we have on tonight is the budget amendment for the street resurfacing that we talked about a little bit. Corey, do you have something to say about that?
Yes, and Virginia's still here with us, so, we went through, Virginia and I have been looking through some of the streets and some of the financing over the winter. I know that that's been high on council's priority list. We have identified roughly 9 streets that we would like to start with, and the budget amendment that we're proposing now to allow us to meet the LGC requirements as well as the general statutes is a budget amendment for $950,000. This would be from our general fund balance. Virginia and I are very confident in being able to make this move. Currently, our fund balance is at roughly 58%. If we remember from where our audit is, that's almost a 22% increase from where we were June of 22. Even with this $950,000 move, our fund balance is still at roughly 43%, so we're well above the state's requirements, the town council's policy, and Virginia and I do recommend that we send this budget amendment for $950,000 to full council. Just out of curiosity, streets-wise, I'm sure this will come up. We hope to get these streets if budgets allow. Woodard, East Freemason from the railroad track to North Oakham, Wood from Church to East Queen, Elliott, West Church from the dead end of Mosley, Walker, Albania, Phillips, and Valentine.
Will that complete Mill Village?
Yes, it will, and it will also complete the priority 1 list that we started with back in 2017 that were identified as the town's worst roads.
Yeah.
This will also complete a large portion of the priority 2 streets.
If we have any left over, that 100 block of East Queen,
100 block.
100
yes.
block of East Queen.
And that was
That is
one
bad,
of
yeah.
the ones that were moved from this last round of paving. But we hope that this is an overestimate and that there will be cushion there, but we've got to reach back out to have a reevaluation of the cost per road.
And the only street will get curb and guttering, and that'll be Walker, correct?
Yes, and there is some curb and gutter work on East Freemason from the railroad track there at Commercial Ready Mix back to North Oak.
Okay.
And Corey, refresh our memories on this. How many phases do we have on the books now as far as our street improvement plan?
So we have 2 full rounds of paving. We have a 3rd round that was related to our water and sewer improvements. So this would be since 2017, this would be the 4th round, 3 of which were strictly for resurfacing and one by itself that was geared towards the water and sewer I&I work, which if you remember, we have a 2nd round of that coming to bid sometime later this year, so we should see basically a 5th round, hopefully by this.
Will you include this in our next fiscal year too, making sure we have enough funds to do more roads?
If our general fund continues, if our reserve fund continues to climb, I think late in what we call Q3
Yeah.
for a fiscal budget for a municipality, I think that's the right time to consider.
Great.
You know, as you leave in winter, you get into to early spring, and then you know where your fund balance is to basically pull out from, to basically say how you've been doing it last year.
Gotcha.
Can I ask a question, Corey?
Yes, sir.
For next year, for 2024, some of these streets that don't have sidewalks and curbing on it, can we put them up on that document and try to work our way through them?
Yes, sir. We're trying to identify everywhere we have and do not have sidewalks right now.
Okay.
Good. So we're gonna keep on having kind of a rolling schedule of addressing these needs, because it seems like, I mean, we've got the monument and other issues out there, but the thing I hear about most are our streets.
Yes.
And if we can keep,
I
I know you hear it all the time.
I hear about sidewalks. Yeah, I hear, yeah.
Streets and sidewalks,
Yeah.
if we can keep it kind of on a rolling basis.
We
Yeah.
do. We will, and we will continue to.
Okay.
Yes.
And are we on schedule for the state, for some of the state roads that are in town this spring or summer?
We are. We've reached out to DOT to get some answers from them, specifically around North Broad. The last conversation we've had, that project should open for the contractor March of this year, which is what we've all been told. But one thing to share here with the group that is somewhat disheartening is that the contract term is for up to 18 months. So we'll continue to push DOT
Delay.
for that, but it's up to
18
the
months, but
contractor
you're
to complete that
24.
work. So we're hoping it's sooner than that, but we wanted to get that out there that,
Okay.
you know, the contract could last up to 18 months for work. And that's really a sign of the lack of contractors and just the inflow of work that's out there. And
Yeah.
we're feeling that as well, so no harm on DOT's part. It's part of the workforce right now.
The comptroller for the state of North Carolina said DOT was writing checks every day they couldn't cash.
Isn't that something?
I do recommend
Well, I
that.
hope ours doesn't bounce.
We'll go ahead and send that to full council and here ends the finance committee.
Okay, thank you, sir. Then the next is a utility committee, and that's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Bond.
Yes, sir. Got one big item here, Mayor. We all know that the town of Edenton runs electricity overhead free. But if you want it ran underground, it's $500 for the first 100 feet for a 200 amp connection, or $4.85 per foot for any length over 100 feet. $600 charge for first 100 feet for a 400 amp connection, $5.85 for anything over 100 feet. Electric Director Mike Nicholas and Corey got together, and with the prices and inflation rising the way that it's rising, they came up with some new terms here. From 500 to 900 for a 200 amp, from 600 to $1,000 for a 400 amp. And Corey and Mike want to send this, say it's necessary, and still with those fees, raising fees, they are only covering half of the cost. The town is absorbing the other half. So,
That is correct. Mayor Pro Tem Bond, when we look at the $500 and $600 existing charge, that roughly represented half when that rate change was put in place because of inventory costs going up. Right now, it only represents a fourth. We still do rely on the system to recoup the remaining expense at the town. That system has been in place in a normal rule, but, you know, we've just seen an increase there for just the materials line. And so Mike and I have had this conversation, and we do think it's
Okay.
necessary. We tried to hold out as long as we could.
okay. We want to push that forward to full council and put it up on the vote then.
One question, was it last year, didn't we raise the rates on that recently? Or was that for some more electrical work?
Not for underground service. I
Okay.
think that what was the last time for the underground was in February of 2020. So it's been 3 years since we've looked at underground rates.
Get those power lines that lays underground for those roads.
I sure wish.
It seems just like yesterday.
It does. And you know, we really delay these as long as we can. It's the right time to revisit these.
Okay,
That's it.
that's it, that's.
All right, the last item on our committee reports is Public Works Committee, and that's chaired by Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, we have this land acquisition, 806 West Queen, the Westover Lift Station. Mayor, the town would like to acquire additional 7,500 square feet of land for the Westover Lift Station at the 806 West Queen Street location. The appraised value of this land is about $30,000. The purchase of the additional property will allow the Public Works Department to perform needed repairs and resolve some setback concerns. The acquisition of this additional land would permit the town to correct easement and right-of-way issues with the neighboring property owners. Funds to purchase this additional property is available through the transfer from the water sewage salary budget line item. The Public Works Committee recommends that the request to purchase be sent to full council. And that's it, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I wish we could have done that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
All right,
It saved a lot of
that
trouble.
concludes our meeting agenda. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Joe.